What's up? Welcome to Updates with Mr. Warford. This is for my world history people. Okay, we're moving on into a new area of the globe known as Russia for our Absolutism unit. Okay, so we want to see, how did Peter the Great try to make Russia into a more modern state? What steps did he take to do that? The good, the bad, and the ugly of that. And then who was Catherine the Great? How did she strengthen Russia? So a little background. So in the early 1600s, Russia was still considered a medieval state. Remember at the very beginning of the year, we talked about the medieval period in Western Europe? Russia was pretty much still like this. The Reformation hadn't really affected them. The Renaissance hadn't really affected them. They were very isolated. And during this period called the Time of Troubles, it plunged their country into a lot of chaos, disorder, and different foreign powers were invading them at this time. So onto the scene comes this guy named Peter the First. He becomes known as Peter the Great. And when he takes the throne of Russia in 1682, he's only 10 years old. So he has to kind of become of an age of semi-adulthood to be able to take the reins of the government in 1689. And he's really interested in what's going on in other parts of Europe. So he goes to other European cities, travels there, learns about their technology, learns about their factories, arts, government, trade, okay, in the late 1600s. And he even learned anatomy, elements of anatomy from a doctor. He goes back to Russia. He assembles this group of experts, teachers, and soldiers from other parts of Europe, and he wants to westernize Europe. And to make that happen, he takes unlimited, uncontrolled authority over Russia. So he not only took control of the government, he took control of the church in Russia, known as the Russian Orthodox Church. He forces nobles to shave their beards, which was like a cultural thing in Russia at the time. Makes them wear more Western clothes against their own will. He improves manufacturing, backs new trading companies, sets up new academies for the sciences, mathematics, engineering. He creates the first Russian Navy that ever exists in history from the ground up. But with that good, the reason that they call him the Great, comes a more negative side, which was that he was a pretty ruthless ruler. He had no mercy for people that went against the status quo that he created. There was a group of palace guards that at one time revolted, and he had more than 1,000 of these rebellious guards killed and had their bodies put on display to rot in the sun to remind everybody not to mess with him. And he even had his own son tortured and killed for suspicion of conspiring against him and conspiring against his throne. So if you're willing to have your own son killed, you're probably willing to do anything to maintain power. He also wanted to expand borders, okay? So they really wanted a warm water port. If you know anything about Russia, it's very cold in parts of Russia, so they needed a port that didn't freeze over for multiple months out of the year so they could bring in new goods. So Peter the Great wanted to find a new warm water port around the Black Sea, okay? This is where the Black Sea is. So he had to fight the Ottoman Empire for it, loses, never gets the warm water port. So that's something that he never got to do, never accomplished in his lifetime. But he does make a new capital city called St. Petersburg. It was referred to as the window to the west. It was built in a very swampy area, and he forced serfs or servants or peasants to work there and drain those swamps and build the city. And in the process, due to spread of disease and overworking, thousands of them die. But it becomes a symbol of Peter's power, and it says so in the name, Petersburg, which still exists today. So what's his legacy? He dies in 1725, and he has a mixed legacy. He works to make Russia more modern. He expanded their territory. They gained new ports. They created a big army. They're not as isolated, but some of his ambitions never came to fruition, like he never found a warm water port. And then some reforms that he wanted to do never happened before his death and after his death. So, for example, he wanted all nobles or all people in the nobility of Russia to work for the government, and not all of them did. and they didn't, especially didn't after he died, because there was no threat to them at all. So some of his reforms came to life, some of his goals came to life, and then after he passes away in 1725, some things still never came to fruition, especially that warm water port. So go ahead and go into Google Classroom, find your study guide questions, and let's be filling out questions about Russia. Have a great day. Bye.